our food world we just take as a given, like dairy products are always in the fridge. But walk the aisle of any European grocery store and you'll see rows and rows of dairy on a shelf. So what are we so afraid of? I went to Normandy, France, home of history, cider, and a whole lot of dairy cows to find out. I was tagging along with Go-Go Squeeze yogurt. Launched last year in the US, they're trying to convince American consumers to approach dairy like the French do, accepting shelf stability, but without preservatives or any unfamiliar ingredients. Normandy's the perfect spot to talk about dairy because its cows are legendary for being high in protein but low in fat. So a factory in the middle of fields is the perfect spot to get schooled in the ways of shelf stabilization. The process starts with a yogurt made from the milk of those famed Normandy cows. The milk is heated, cultures are added, and it starts fermenting. After a few hours sitting, it is turned into yogurt. A few items for flavor and texture are also added: tapioca starch, cane sugar, and fruit pectin and puree. Then it's moved into those pouches that have now become so ubiquitous. So how does it stay on the shelf? It's just a matter of time and temperature through a process called retort. The pouches have the air removed and they're completely sealed. Then they're heated, similar to being in a pressure cooker. It's basically the same thing you do with a jam. Seal it, heat it, and then it remains stable until you open it all back up. But how does the cooked version compare with the culture-filled, uncooked raw yogurt? So obviously the big question that people have with shelf stable is, does it taste the same after that retort process where it's cooked? So we have one from before and one from after, and we're gonna give it an actual taste here. So this flavor is banana. And before it's very fresh, and it's supposed to change the texture a little bit, but not as much the taste. And it's interesting. The texture is definitely different. The flavor is a little bit different, but for the most part, there's not a huge difference between the fresh version that we had here and after the retort, which is kind of interesting. It's mostly just textural, which you would expect from anything that's been cooked. The before and after here was key. We're so used to thinking that packaged products have to equal preservatives or indecipherable ingredients. It feels counterintuitive with dairy, but we've been pressure cooking and canning food long before we had the scale and equipment to move it into a factory. The taste is obviously not as fresh as when it's raw, but it's a pretty great substitute for the go. And of course, it's hard to argue with those picture-perfect Normandy cows.